My name is Fran Dvorkin, and I am a member of the Chicago YIVO Board of Directors. The Chicago YIVO Society is a local affiliate of the YIVO Institute for Jewish Research. The mission of Chicago YIVO is to entertain and educate the local community, well, now even the broader community, through subsidized lectures, music programs, and film screenings that reflect the rich heritage of our Jewish culture and to ensure the future of Yiddish language education. Please go to our website, chicagoyivo.org, for more information and to become a member or a donor. Your financial support helps us to bring you programming such as we have today. It's now my pleasure to introduce Jeffrey Mallow, Honorary Chair of Chicago YIVO Society.
Sholem Aleichem, ich begrüße euch alle im Namen von Chicago YIVO und es ist mein größter Covid vorzustellen, unser Redner heint, Rabbi Schechter.
That's it.
Ja, nun warten. Barry Schechter is rabbi of Congregation Kol Emeth in Skokie. He was born and raised in London, England. Following his yeshiva studies at Etz Chaim in London and Gateshead Talmudical Academy, he studied economics at Cambridge and Essex University and did graduate work at Northwestern University. After Northwestern University, he worked as an economist in Washington, D.C., where he also taught Yiddish and Hebrew classes and conducted high holiday services. Rabbi Schechter grew up in a trilingual household. He and his sister spoke English, his mother spoke German, and his father spoke Yiddish. And Yiddish is the language that gives him the greatest joy. He has lectured on Yiddish language and dialects at the linguistics department of the University of Chicago. He has also given talks on a variety of subjects, including the history of East European Jews, Austrian and German Jewish refugees in Britain, as well as on the Holocaust. He's represented at the University of Hartford, Connecticut, the University of Reading in England, the Jewish organization Gateshead in Berlin, Germany, the JCC in Krakow, Poland, and synagogues in Chicago, Milwaukee, and New York, and of course for YIVO. Rabbi Schechter has appeared on WBBM, WBEZ, and WGM radio in Chicago, WAMU in Washington, D.C., and CBC radio in Canada. His TV credits include WMAQ.
That's me.
Who's that you in the bottom right?
No, that's me.
I hear background noise.
551760, Tom, if you can mute, please.
His TV credits include WMAQ TV, TCI Cable, and Group W Cable TV. He has published articles in scholarly journals, as well as in the National Jewish Post and Opinion and in the Washington Post. I first met Barry at Northwestern Hillel in the late 60s. We rekindled our friendship a few years ago. My wife Ann and I have become members of his synagogue. In addition to his many other accomplishments, Rabbi Schechter is an accomplished violinist with an encyclopedic knowledge of music in a wide range of genres. He hosts a program, Music with the Rabbi, on Zoom every Tuesday evening. In addition to the languages already mentioned, Rabbi Schechter speaks Hebrew, French, Polish, and Russian. Unfortunately, as usual, he will be presenting his program in heavily accented English. It is my pleasure to present my Rebbe and my friend, Rabbi Barry Schechter.
Thank you very much. I don't have no accent. I speak like you have the accent. No, listen, I can't help it. What can I do? I studied for years to get this accent because, as you all know, I was born in Brooklyn. It took me years to master this way of speaking. Anyway, before I speak, I would like to say a few words. And you should be laughing already.
That's my rabbi.
Oh, blimey, who's that? Anyway, okay. So listen, I want to tell you something. That's really, I mean, I had the strangest thing a few days ago. I have to tell you, it's pretty bizarre. I know you think I never have my hair cut because you say, you know, there's nothing, and this is not this is not rocket science. But I did go to a new barber, and he was nicht kein großer Chuchem. You know that expression, a mittler Mensch. Nicht kein großer Chuchem and nicht kein kleiner Narr. He was and I'll tell you why I don't think he was so bright. He looked at me and he said, before I cut your hair, you have to tell me something, otherwise I can't cut your hair. I said, what is it? He said, which side do you part your hair? And I said to him, can't you see? I'm a Shiganer. Anyway, listen. We have some young representatives. Okay, Lisa, just keep her going, keep her laughing. I'm going to say some words, some stuff in Yiddish, but I found some strange stories, some of which are not appropriate. For younger people, I'm not sure if this is so appropriate. Oh gosh. Where is it? Oh, yeah. No, I think Lisa. I think you better Lisa. Just you, Lisa. Okay. Yes. Someone told me this is such a sad story. He said, I went by the house I grew up in and asked if I could go in and look around. They said no and slammed the door. My parents can be so rude. And then this is rather unfortunate as well. I was kidnapped by mimes. You know mimes, M-I-M-E-S.
No, I don't know.
This is ghastly.
I don't like it.
Please, I was kidnapped by mimes. They did unspeakable things to me. I am sorry about that.
Oh.
Yes. Have you been on El Al? I'm sure some of you have been on El Al. You know what it's like? They come over and say, would you like dinner? And I say, what are my choices? And they say, yes or no. That's Now, there's this guy. You see, I know nothing about football. And I found this guy. Has anyone heard of Joe Theismann? Does anyone know Joe Theismann? Apparently, he said the following. He said, nobody in football should be called a genius. A genius is a guy like Norman Einstein. Anyway, that's... Yes. Anyway, I stepped on my scale this morning. It said, please practice social distancing, only one person at a time. This is terrible. We need some drum rolls. We need some drum rolls for this. And the other thing, I'll tell you something else, a real dislike I have. I hate it. I hate it when people act all intellectual and they talk about Mozart when they've never even seen one of his paintings. Now, look. Did you hear about I don't know about there's this 60-year-old millionaire who he was getting married to a hot 23-year-old, and he throws a big wedding reception. One of the guys says, how did you do it? He says, I faked my age. How much? I said I was 87. A priest and a nun. Do you like this? We're getting to Jewish stuff now. A priest and a nun are in the car. They've been in convention. The car breaks down. Nothing they can do about it. There's a motel. And of course, naturally, it wouldn't work otherwise for this story. There's only one room. And the priest said, sister, I don't think the Lord would have a problem. Under the circumstances, we've spent the night together in this one room. I'll sleep on the couch. You take the bed. 10 minutes later, Father, I'm terribly cold. Okay, I'll get you a blanket from the closet. 10 minutes later, Father, I'm still terribly cold. Okay, sister, I'll get up and get you another blanket. 10 minutes later, Father, I'm still terribly cold. I don't think the Lord would mind if we acted as man and wife for just this one night. He said, you know, you're probably right. Get up and get your own damn blanket. Anyway.
You on, Jenny?
Anyway, yes. Well, we're going fine here. Some of you first, hands up, those of you who heard me before. Just hands up.
Please, everybody, turn off your microphone.
Who's?
Please, everybody, turn off your microphone. You're interfering with the speaker.
Yes, and the same to you. It's you are interfering.
Well, I can hear everybody's laughing here all the time. And
well, that's what we want them to laugh. We want them to laugh. LAKHN IZ GEZUNT. DOKTOIRIM HEYSSN LAKHN. We want laughter. It's all right. They're not interfering. Listen, I paid them good money. Let me get my money. But anyway, so some of you have heard me before. Could you raise your hands if you heard me before? Oi, gewalt geschrien. Okay, yes. Well, you may have heard this before. I don't care. It doesn't matter. So if you hear a good piece of music, you should hear it again. This guy, David Klein, some of you will remember this, thinks he's Napoleon. He goes to a psychologist, goes to a shrink, said, "You're Napoleon?" "Yes." "How do you feel?" "Great." Should I do a French, should I do a, what do you call it, accent? "My armies have conquered much of Europe. They've brought civilization to these people. I'm very popular. What problem of yours have brought you to me?" "It's not my problem. It's my wife." "What's her problem?" "She thinks she's Mrs. Klein." Yes. You know, in shul, you have, they have a silent appeal. You know, when I hear the word silence in connection with shul, I don't like it. It's something wrong. It's something wrong. In our little shtibur, when I was growing up, some guy once showed up and told everyone the nerve, the chutzpah, excuse me, I said, but I'd say chutzpah, right? Jake, chutzpah, right? Chutzpah, thank you, he's nodding, he's agreeing. So chutzpah.
Chutzpah. Shingenig.
Yeah, right. So right. So he says, he tells people to be quiet. So one of the guys says, will uns machen für Reform, Schiel. He wants to turn this into a reform country. So anyway, silent. What? I've lost it. I was going to talk about silence. I've lost it. Woo. Silent appeal. Right, silent appeal, which is ridiculous. In the good old days, you remember how it went. The shamus would get up and say, "Moshe Cohen, $10, 10 Tula. Chaim Goldzweig, 15 Tula." And so it would go on. And the president might repeat this. Moshe Cohen, 10 Tula, Chaim Goldzweig. There was one fellow who kept the shul going. It was the good old days. $10,000 kept the shul going for a year. But he was anonymous. So the announcements would actually go like this. $10,000 anonymous. Chaim Cohen, 10 Tula. Moshe Goldzweig, 15 Tula. 1 year, someone else got into the act and decided to give $3 anonymously. Thomas says, 3 Tula, $3 anonymous. At this point, the $10,000 guy jumps up and says, "I want you all to know that's not my anonymous." Yes. Some of you know this. This is a most un-Jewish joke. There's a drunken man. He sits down on the bench next to a priest. I don't know what's the bank than a priest and a galach, but anyway, he sits down next to a priest, a different priest from the previous priest. He's a mess. He's a bum. His tie is stained. His face is plastered with red lipstick. There's a half-empty bottle of gin sticking out of his torn coat pocket. He says to the priest, "Father, tell me." He's reading the paper. He says, "Tell me, what causes arthritis?" And the priest says, "My son, I'll tell you what causes it. It's loose living. It's living with being with cheap, wicked women, too much alcohol, contempt for your fellow man, sleeping around with prostitutes, and not taking a bath." And he says, "Oh dear, oh dear." And the priest feels a bit bad. He says, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come on so strong. How long have you had the arthritis?" He says, No, it's not me, Father. I just read in the paper that the Pope has it." There's a little girl is at a wedding for the first time, and she whispers to her mother, "Why is the bride dressed in white?" She says, "Because white is the color of happiness. Today is the happiest day of her life." And the child thinks and says, "So why is the groom wearing black?" Yes. There's a Sunday, we'll get to the Jewish stuff in a minute. There's a Sunday school teacher talking about Keep it down, keep it down. He's discussing the 10 Commandments with 5 and 6-year-olds. And he says, honor thy father and thy mother. Now, children, we've studied this before. Is there a commandment that teaches us how to treat our brothers and sisters? One boy says, yes, thou shalt not kill. Now, if you're a senior, you know, people get very scared. They don't like strangers. So I've seen some advice. One says the following: if you're sitting in public and a stranger takes the seat next to you, just stare straight ahead and say, did you bring the money? That's all right. My wife, with COVID, we're all going Meshugge. You know, my wife said to me, what are you doing today? I said, nothing. She said, you did that yesterday. I didn't finish. Yes. Oh, there's these terrible ones. I've only been married once, but someone once said, my ex-wife still misses me, but her aim is starting to improve. We need a drum. Well, some of you are left cold by me. Anyway, Jennifer, give me some more laughs, please, Jennifer.
All right.
Yes.
Quietly laughing inside. It's very fun.
That's okay. That's okay. What about the yes? What about the guy who comes running into the drugstore? Just quick! What have you got for hiccups? And this pharmacist leans over and whacks him around the face. He said, "What's that for?" He said, "You're not hiccuping now." He said, "It's for my wife. She's in the car." A terrible pun. I've told you this before. Don't call it out. Think of these as rhetorical questions. What do you call a Torah? What do you call a Torah with a seatbelt round it? A safer Torah.
Oh.
Oh.
Terrible.
Oh.
That is quite awful. You know, there's a couple in Chicago, this is years ago, and they were speaking to them. They said, do you have any plans? And the wife said, yes. If one of us dies, I'm moving to Florida. You know, there was this fellow from New York. I don't know whether it's Brooklyn, Lisa, or Bronx, Jeffrey. I don't know. Ich weiß nicht. But he was a Yid, a fremde Yid, he had a board, he had Pelech, and he went down on business, and he wore a yarmulke, of course, or a big black hat, and he went down to, not to Florida, he went down to Alabama. And little kids started looking, pointing, laughing. He said, what's the matter? He said, you never seen a Yankee before? Now, there's a naughty word in this.
Clearly from Brooklyn.
Yeah, there's a naughty word. Thank you. There's a naughty word in this. A naughty word in this. I want you to imagine a Verein, a Landsmannschaft, one of the Jewish mutual aid societies that existed in great numbers, less now, unfortunately, about more than 100 years ago, the early part of the 20th century. And they speak Yiddish, but they're moving to English slowly. And the chairman thinks he knows English. And he gets up and he says, I want to welcome you to this meeting. And the guy at the back gets angry and he says, Yiddish. The fellow he didn't like being interrupted. And he says, I want to welcome you to this meeting. He says, Yiddish. It happens a third time. He says, I want to welcome you to this meeting. The guy at the back yells out, Red Yiddish. And this fellow looks at him slowly and says, you son of a bitch. And the guy says, I'm a chaya to hear a Yiddish word. What a pleasure to hear some good Yiddish. Anyway, it only works if you know Yiddish. Yes. Yes. This happened to me. This did happen to me. Half of it happened to me. Many years ago, I was in Milwaukee and I was there for Shavuos. And I was asked to sing and speak on Shavuos in a senior center. It's called an old age home. It was very orthodox. I stand in the front and the people are standing behind me, so I have my back to them. There's no microphone. It's a big room. The men in the front, the women at the back. And I daven, long service, several hours, and I speak. But the main thing is the davening, with my back to them. And afterwards, a lady comes up to me and she says, "We couldn't hear a word. We couldn't hear a thing. Nothing." The second day, I screamed, I yelled, I carried on. I finished, my face was red, my throat was aching. And I saw her afterwards, and she wasn't young. She didn't seem to know who I was. And I said, "Excuse me, could you hear me?" She said, "What am I, deaf?" and then I said to her, "Tell me, how did I do?" She says, "I hope you won't mind. I'll tell you the truth. The cantor yesterday was better." Anyway. You've met such people, yes. You know, on Pesach, you're not supposed to eat chametz, right? Bread. There's in the Gemara somewhere it says, it doesn't say this exactly, but I'll twist it around a little bit. It says somewhere that the sin of eating chametz, when you're not supposed to, is like the sin of adultery. And a friend of mine, I told this to a friend of mine, he said, "You know, I've tried them both, and I don't see the comparison." Yes. Hey, another one. Someone said to Mrs. Goldstein, he says, "You know, an astronaut, they went to the moon." And she says, "As man hat Geld, as man hat Geld, if you have money, you can travel." Anyway, it's better. Don't feel embarrassed. If you don't find it funny, pretend to laugh. Pretend to laugh. I do that all the time. Yes. This rabbi comes to a synagogue and he speaks on Friday night. It's his, it's what in England, in the House of Commons, is called the maiden speech, the maiden drosha, the maiden sermon, first one. And he thinks it went very well, but a man comes up to him afterwards and he says, "You know, Rabbi?" He says, "Yes." "Your speech?" He says, "Yes." "Too long." Oy, oy, oy. Next week, he speaks again. Thinks it went well. Afterwards, the guy comes up to him. He tries to get away, but he grabs him. He says, "Rabbi." He said, "What? The speech?" He said, "Yeah." "Boring." Next week, he says, he gives a speech again. This time, he's really, really worried. The guy comes up to again. He says, "What? What?" He says, "Your speech, irrelevant." He goes up to the president. And he says, "Look, I can't stand this." He said, "What's the matter?" He said, "This man is destroying me. I'm trying to build up my confidence here." He comes up, makes all his critics. Take no notice of him. He's the shamas. He's a fool. He has no ideas of his own. He just repeats what other people tell him. Yes, it is. It is. By the way, on the subject of Yiddish, I read this somewhere. I don't know if it's true, but I'd love to think it's true. After the war, they took a survey in Boston to find out about whether people knew Yiddish. And they asked two questions. So the answer to the first question was, you know, they asked how many people speak Yiddish, and 10,000 people said they speak, I'm sorry, how many people understand Yiddish? 10,000 people said they understand Yiddish. And they asked how many people speak Yiddish, and 15,000 said they speak Yiddish. This is the only case in history of 5,000 people admitting that they don't know what they're talking about. Yes. Yes. Keep going, keep going. I'm looking for more stuff. Weiter. Yes. Okay. This one's going in Yiddish and English. First, I say it in Yiddish, and then I will immediately translate it into English. Or maybe I should do it in English, and for those who don't understand, I'll translate it into Yiddish. No, I'll do it the other way around. Okay. So I'm all giving a Yid. There was once a Jew in Yisrael, in Israel. Is gegangen zum Doctor. That's easy. He went to the doctor. You see how much Yiddish you know? Doctor.
Yeah.
See, you're learning already. The doctor examined him. Untersucht, that's German. How would you say examined? I don't know. Anyway, there's Yiddish. Aklau, that's better. Aklau. The doctor hat him gefragt. Doctor asked him, wie alt sind ihr? How old are you? He said, 75 Jahre. I'm 75 years old, he said. Das erste Mal in meinem Leben, first time in my life, ich soll sehen a Yid, I see someone 75 Jahre alt, 75 years old, soll sein so gesinnt, who's so healthy. Wie so kommt das? How does this come about? How does it happen? He said, das habe ich alles zu verdanken, mein Weib. This is all due to my wife. As mom got chasana, when we were married, nachdem, after that, hat sie mir gesagt, she said, es kann nicht sein, als zwei Menschen soll leben zusammen, nicht haben Gemachleike, nicht zerkriegen sich. It's impossible for two people to live together and never have a quarrel, never have an argument. Is as I. So listen. Als einer wird nehmen schreien, if one of us starts shouting, soll der zweite gar nicht sagen, the other one shouldn't say anything, no soll rausgehen auf der Gas, should go out into the street. Als man lebt 50 Jahre in der frischen Luft, müssen wir sein gesinnt. If you spend 50 years in the fresh air, you're bound to be healthy. Let me go back to priests. I love people. Galach. I love talking about priests. Yes, you remember the one about the priest? The priest who lost his bicycle. Do you remember this? He goes to the bishop. He thinks, yes. I'm not going to tell this in Yiddish. It wouldn't be fair to the priest. He wouldn't understand it. He goes to the bishop and he said, I've just arrived at this parish and I've lost my bicycle. And I think someone's stolen it. And the bishop says, I'll tell you what to do. He said, I can't accuse anyone. What you do is this. Next Sunday, preach about the 10 Commandments. And when you come to thou shalt not steal, say it slowly, pause and look around. You'll get your bike back. A week later, the bishop sees the priest riding his bike. So you see, I told you, he said, yes, it worked, but not quite the way you intended. I talked about the 10 Commandments. He said, but when I came to thou shalt not commit adultery, I remembered where I'd left it.
Good.
Yes. I know. Well, I can't resist this because it's part of my synagogue folklore. We had a man called Zalman Kulevsky, Louis, Uncle Louis. He had quite a pisk. He had a mouth on him. And he got very angry. And he could be quite funny when he got angry. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. A man annoyed him, didn't take much. He jumped up, walked away from him, came right up to me, and he said to me, you speak to him. No intelligent man can speak to him. And I wanted to congratulate him, in art, any kind of art, economy is everything. And to be able to insult two people with a single statement is a gift. Hand me one sentence. That's it. Yes. You remember about this Jewish man who's Nebuch, he's in a car accident, he's lying there, and a priest comes up to him. He says to him, do you believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost? And he says, Ich starb, I'm dying, and he's asking me riddles. Anyway.
I'm dying and you're asking me riddles.
That's it. Gerecht soll man joinen. Yes. Remember about the woman? Oh, I've got another one about a dentist. I've forgotten. Wait a sec. A woman goes to the dentist, and she's supposed to have cleaning. He looks at her teeth. He says, I've got to take out 5 teeth. She says, I'd rather have a baby. He says, make up your mind. Make up your mind. I'll have to adjust the chair. Yes. We had a guy in shul. He's no longer among us. I once called him. This is a true story. I once called him, and one afternoon, the poor fellow was in the hospital. And I said, Joe, how are you? He said, I'd be fine if people stop. This is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd be fine if people stopped calling me and if they'd let me sleep. That was... And now there's another rabbi who told this story about going to visit a lady. Again, I said, probably a true story. He goes in the hospital and he says, hello. And the lady looks at him. He says, how are you? She looks at him. I'm glad to see you. He kicked him on. She kicked him on. He says, how are they treating you?
Oh, I have it already marked down. I just have to get it ready.
I think you'll have to find who this is coming from. Have a look. I'll tell you who it is. 1 second.
Doris.
Yeah, Doris's iPad. Yeah. If you can. Yes. Anyway, I can't say like in shul. Still. You can't say that. Yeah. Actually, someone told me. Harry Ernsten told me that in the shul he grew up in. You'll have to remind me what I was talking about. What was I talking about just now? Help me. What was I talking about? Anyway, look, I'm not paying. You've got to pay attention. I'm not paying attention. Anyway, no, in their shul, downstairs in the men's section, they were talking, yelling, carrying on. Upstairs in the women's section, it was totally quiet. And the shamus gets up, bangs on the beamer and says, "Bei der Weiber soll sein still." The women should be quiet. Yeah, that doesn't get a laugh. And the one I was going to tell you, I've lost. Right. Yes. Fellow comes into court in England. Has anyone ever visited a court in England? No?
Nope.
Usually someone says yes, and I always say, were you acquitted? Anyway, so you go, this guy's in court, and they see he comes along, and he has a beard, he has payas, a big black hat, long black coat, and the judge says, interpreter. They bring out, and the man seems very annoyed that they're bringing out the interpreter, and he says, Your Honor, I was born in this country. I've graduated from Oxford and Cambridge. I have taught at Oxford and Cambridge in this country. I have taught at Harvard and Yale and Princeton, the United States of America. Interpreter. And the judge says, wo sucht der dorten, der Meshuggefication?
What is that crazy person?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we did a translation. So, do you remember the world of Hyman Kaplan? Do you all remember Hyman Kaplan? Yes. Written by a fellow called Rossiter. Actually, it was Leo Roston. So he has a nice thing there. He has Hyman Kaplan trying to learn English and driving his teachers mad, and he's taught the comparative and the superlative. Rich, richer, richest, and so forth. So the teacher says to him, what's the comparative and the superlative of good? And he says, good, better, first class. And then she says, what about bad? He said, bad, vice, rotten. Anyway, you get some laugh for that because I'm going to go into Yiddish now. So in Yiddish, we have some of those. I will tell you them. Rich is Reich. I can't. Reich, ungestoppt, auf mir gesucht. So rich, I don't know how to get ungestoppt in English. It's loaded. It's not the same, but it may happen to me. And what about ugly? I know ugly. This is really nasty. Mies, you all know mies is ugly. Mies, chalushes, ashenem legt man in Dreht daran. Ugly, chalushes, paint, they're so ugly. And the last one, which is really vicious, is that someone prettier you bury. Anyway, that doesn't sound so. It's not so bad in Yiddish. Now a few curses in Yiddish. Again, be careful. Don't worry about this. Yes. Yes. This is really nasty. May a child be named after you soon. Yes, because as you know, among Ashkenazic Jews, there's a superstition. That's all it is about naming a child after someone living. That is all it is, a superstition. Among Sephardic Jews, it doesn't apply. And among Ashkenazic Jews, it didn't used to apply either. We suddenly got superstitious several hundred years ago. We got very, very nervous. You know, I mean, you know about nervous, you know. Jackie Mason had a nice thing about this. You know, you mustn't say anything's good. Kanena horror, you know. He says, how you do? He says, what's happened? What are you doing? He said, well, look, I own a couple of countries. Are you making a living? Not right now. You know, you're very nervous about saying anything's good. You know, how your child is so pretty. You know, there's a nasty one. Also, another curse. May you grow so rich. Your widow's second husband never has to worry about making a living. May you swallow an umbrella and may it open in your stomach. May you back into a pitchfork and grab a hot stove for support. May you grow two more hands to scratch all your itches. I mean, well, since I'm talking about this subject, some of you know this about the guy, the pharmacist who comes into his store and he sees a man standing there. There's a man standing there, leaning against the wall, and he says to the manager, "What's going on?" And he says, "Well, he came in and he has a very bad cough. And we're out of everything. We don't have any cough syrup or medicine or anything. So I gave him a bottle of X-Lax." He said, "X-Lax? That doesn't cure a cough." He says, "Are you kidding? Look at him. He doesn't dare cough." Anyway. Yes. Those in the medical profession. Yes, we have these things. I love telling these. Oh, hold on. Oh, okay. I've got a nice one. Yeah. So, does anyone know the word pachatic? No, very interesting. I don't know if Michael's here. I don't know if Michael Oakman's here. Michael Oakman knows the word pachatic. Michael worked on Maxwell Street many years ago, and most of the store owners knew that Yiddish word, even if they knew no other Yiddish. They knew the word pachatic. I'll tell you how. The pachatic is the first customer of the day. And if you're superstitious, and most storekeepers are, you want that first customer to have a good sale. You want a good sale, because that's a kind of augury for the rest, then the rest of the day will go well. In fact, a friend of mine told me his grandfather, he watched him when he was on Division Street. His grandfather, if the first customer came in and didn't buy anything, or it was a lousy sale, he would actually close the store and go for a 10-minute walk and come back. Now, what does it come from? I'm going to teach you a bittle etymology. So I'm going to tell you something. Yeah. It's from Ukrainian. It's similar to a Polish word. In Polish, the word for a beginning is początek. Początek is a beginning. And in Ukrainian, it's pochatok. But in Yiddish, it's come to mean not just a beginning, but a beginning that is, as I say, an augury. We have other words using augur, by the way, inaugural, an augury. So the pochatok is that you always want to make a good sale, the first one. This is a very lengthy introduction to this story about a man who wanted to go to Maxwell Street in its heyday and buy a coat. It was a long time ago. But he says to a friend, he's nicht kein übergespitzter, he's no genius. He says to a friend, "Ich habe gehört, man darf etwas handeln, dingen sich. I've heard you're supposed to bargain, handeln, dingen sich. Wusstest du das, handeln? Wie soll ich machen? How do you do it?" He says, push it. It's very simple. Was verlangt, whatever he asks, biet the moon the Hälfte, offer him half. Whatever he asks, just offer him half. He remembers that. He goes into the store, and he's the pechatik, he's the first one. So the store owner wants to make the sale. He goes in the store, and he sees a coat. He's the only one in the store, and he says to the storekeeper, how much is that coat? And he says, for you, $100. You know, in the store, it's always for you. There's no one else there. The only other person around is a policeman 200 yards away. He's already got a coat. For you, $100. He says, I'll give you 50. The storekeeper says, all right, 80. Now he remembers what he was told. So I'll give you 40. He says, what? I thought you said 50. He said, all right, 25. I should be laughing already. Anyway, and so they go down and down and down and down. And finally, the storekeeper, he wants to get rid of this. It's the first customer. He says, I'll give it to you for nothing. He says, I'll take 2. In Dus is azoi handelt man, azoi denkt man sich. That's how you do it. Another Yiddish one. This will just be for a few people. No, everyone could understand this, I hope. You know, when you were growing up, probably you would say Baruch Atah, etc., etc., and now you say Baruch Atah. It changed because we came closer to the, not exactly the same, don't think it's the same, to the Israeli pronunciation. We tried to make it very similar to the Israeli pronunciation. But the story is that, in fact, when all the synagogues changed here, the conservative synagogues certainly, God sitting up there was listening to the davening as he did every Shabbos morning, and he said, "Was sagen sie dort? What are they saying there?" We just get a few laughs for that. Anyway, never mind. Never mind. Yes. You know about the 2 guys who pass a church? This is a nasty one. I love it. 2 Jewish guys walking past a church. Have you heard this? You know this?
No.
A big sign in front of the church. If you convert to Christianity, he will pay you $1,000. And one of them says, you know, I heard this in England first, so I'll use an English word and then I'll give you the American word. He says, I have to do it. I'm skint. You know, skint? Skint means broke. I'm broke. So he goes in. After 25 minutes, he comes out. The other guy says to him, did you do it? He said, yeah. He said, how do you feel? He said, the same. He said, did you get the money? He says, that's all you people think about.
Oh.
I have a few ads that appeared for a shidduch. You know what a shidduch is? What's a shidduch?
Match.
A match. And what do you call a matchmaker?
Shotgun?
Shotgun. Don't make a mistake. It's not shotgun. That's something different. A shotgun. Oh, you know about the shotgun who comes to a guy and he says, listen, I've got a wonderful shidduch for you. She's got money and clever. He says, what's the matter? He said, ich will gasten nur für Liebe. I only want to marry for love. He said, wir haben das auch. We've got those as well. Anyway, since I'm on a shadchan, we'll keep going. So shadchan, the naughty one. The shadchan, they hire a shadchan because it's a horrible situation. I mean, ich bin sie nicht mekane. I don't envy them. This fellow is 35, a frum family, very orthodox. He's not married. He's not married. They call him the shadchan. He says, 35, not married. I'll try. Maybe we'll have a miracle. It's very schwer to find a woman who's not been married before this age. Very difficult. You know, shadchan talk. Anyway, comes back a week later, he says, ich hab's nicht geglaubt. I wouldn't have believed it myself. It's a miracle. It's incredible. He said, I found someone, she's the right age. She is the right age. And she cooks, and she's skilled, and she's frum, and I'll tell you what else, she's beautiful. And the parents say to the son, again, let's go. And the son says, not so fast. She says, what do you mean? He says, wait a minute. He says, no, I can't say this. So you've got to imagine this. You've got to use the lower part of your mind to imagine this. He said, I want to know, is she good? Don't say a word. Don't say is she good? And the shadchan say, some say yes, some say no. Now these ads that have appeared, I think I've told you these, but I don't come and tell you again. Jewish businessman, 49, manufactures Shabbos candles, Hanukkah candles, Havdalah candles, Yahrzeit candles, seeks non-smoker. Couch potato latka. Couch potato latka. How do you like that? In search of the right apple sauce. Let's try it for 8 days. Who knows? Female graduate student studying Kabbalah, Zohar, exorcism of Dibbuks, seeks mensch. No weirdos, please. Divorced Jewish man seeks partner to attend shul with, light Shabbos candles, celebrate holidays, build sukkah together, attend brises, bar mitzvahs. Religion not important. This is very sweet. Shul Gabbai 36. I take out the Torah Saturday morning. Would like to take you out Saturday night. That's what it's Yeshiva Bocher, Torah scholar, long beard payas, seeks same in woman. Matzah supplier 53 seeks cloth bag manufacturer. Let's play hide the afikoman. Yes, there's a story about what was going to take before? There's a story about this asylum, a place where people are sick mentally, and there's a Jewish patient, and he says to the head of the asylum, who happens to be Jewish, I have become frum. And he says, well, I'm very happy for you. He says, what that means is, I now need kosher food. He says, very difficult. He said, I don't care. You have to, we're paying. And he says, I'll do what I can. And with great difficulty, getting kosher food. And the next Shabbos, he decides to go and visit him. And he sees this inmate sitting there, smoking a big cigar. And he says, just a minute. He said, what? What's the matter? He said, you told me you need kosher food. Right. You said you're frum. Yes, I am. He said, but it's Shabbos. He said, I know. And he said, you're not allowed to smoke on Shabbos. He said, I know. He said, but you are smoking. He said, yes. He said, how do you explain this? He says, doctor, have you forgotten? I'm Meshugger.
I'm Meshugger. Crazy.
I love that story. I love that story. I love this triumph. I feel sorry for the head of the place, but I just love that story. Yes. I must have somewhere here. Oh yes, husband and wife. This, we're all getting to this is all senior stuff. I mean, it's happening. The wife says to her husband, "Listen, I want you to get me." They're not young. Remember that. Vanilla ice cream. He says, all right. She says, write it down. They'll forget. He says, I won't forget. She says, I want chocolate topping. Write it down. He said, I won't forget. She says, with whipped cream, write it down. You'll forget it. He says, I won't forget. He says, you will forget. He said, I won't. Vanilla ice cream, chocolate topping, whipped cream. He's gone for 2 hours. He comes back with a plate of scrambled eggs. She says, I told you to write it down. You forgot the toast. Yes. And then this one, which you all know, which is a great classic, but I'm going to tell you anyway, about this guy. He's on tour. He's on a business trip and his watch has stopped. You know this. He goes to a place, a big clock in the window, a store, and he goes in. Yes, the Marsachana Board. This joke has a beard already. I don't care. And he goes in and he says to the fellow, listen, I don't know if it needs a new battery. Please help me. The fellow says, what do you want from me? I'm not a watchmaker. He says, why? What do you mean? What are you? He says, I'm a moil. He says, you're a moil? Why do you have a clock in the window? He says, what would you like me to put in the window?
Do a circumcision.
All right, how are we doing? How are we doing for time? Tell me. Wie lang soll die Mann zwischen warten gehen?
Couple of minutes.
Huh?
Rabbi, erst ist möglich zu erzählen, ein Witz im Ganzen in Jiddisch?
Ich habe schon erzählt. Ich habe erzählt noch, ich gebe mal eine Übersetzung, weil der Eulam versteht nicht Jiddisch.
Okay.
Versteht, was ich so? Ich verstehe. Ich wollte gewollt.
Yiddish is mein Yiddish, dasselbe.
I understand. Now, I tell you, there was one time, I think I gave a talk at Kins, Congregation Kins, and I did it entirely in Yiddish from beginning to end. And it was marvelous. No one understood a bloody word I said. No, it was fantastic. Yeah, what's this one? In England, all right, I'll tell you one with Yiddish at the end. In England, there was something we used to, I don't know if they still have it. Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Doris. In England, there was something called a minion man. It was actually called that. They would pay someone to come to the weekday minion. You get a few bob or a few quid or whatever, and you come and make the minion so that someone who there could say Kaddish. It was a minion man. That's what it's called. And one day there was a trial, and this fellow was a witness. And the counsel said to him, what is your name? He said, Chaim Goldstein. And he said, what's your job? What's your profession? What's your job? He said, I'm a minion man. And the judge said, excuse me, what is a minion man? He said, well, let me explain it, Your Honor. If there are 9 in I come, then it's 10. And the judge said, wait a minute, if there are 9 and I come, they're also 10. The guy smiles, he says, oh, Chayit. Are you also Jewish? Yeah. Yes. What do you get? You know what a yeka is? A German Jew, you know, very precise. So what do you get if you cross, if you know you have 2 people married, you cross a yeka with a Chabadnik, you know, some of the Chabad, a Mashiach, a Messiah who comes on time. Do you remember this? I think Henny Youngman had this in his book. You see a table, to imagine a long table, and here's the husband, here's the wife, and here's an old lady. And the husband is saying to the wife, all right, you've been trying me sugar all these years that we don't go on vacation. We're going on vacation. One condition. He says, what? He points to the old woman. Your mother is not coming with us. She says, my mother? All these years I thought she was your mother. That's why it's important to speak with each other at home. All right, okay, so we'll wrap it up, I think. Yes, okay. So I've got this, you've heard it before, but I always like to close with this. A man dies. It shouldn't happen to any of us. He dies. Well, I'm going to sidetrack myself. After you've heard this before, what do you say if you want someone to live long? Sollst leben bis
120.
You should live till 120, which I never say. I always say, zoals leven met 120 in 3 gedushim, 3 Monaten. You should live till 120 and 3 months. Why? So you shouldn't die suddenly. Anyway, now, so a man dies, 120, he dies. I keep thinking of other jokes, but I've got to restrain myself, Ezo Gibber a Klavish a Glachwertel, as Sholem Aleichem said. Never mind that. Leave Sholem Aleichem for the moment. He dies, and he's shown what I like to call in Yiddish downstairs in upstairs. That's Gehenna, downstairs, hell, in Gan Eden, upstairs, heaven. First, he's shown hell. You always start out with a not so good product, and then you move up. You see, it's a sales job. I don't think it's any different up over there than it is here. It's the same thing. Heaven, after you die, you're sort of on a glorified Maxwell Street. Anyway, so, he's shown hell, and he can't believe his eyes, or his ears for that matter. We had a guy on the radio in England. He said, old man. He said, he says, it's me eyes. It's me eyes. I've forgotten how it goes now. Oh, yes, it's me eyes. They ain't what they used to be. They used to be me ears. Anyway, so he, this group makes me feel very freewheeling. He can't believe his eyes or his ears or his nose or anything, because there are hundreds of people there. There's a bar. People are drinking. There's food. There's kosher food. I want you to ponder the theological significance of kosher food in hell. I tell you, I've been to at least one kosher restaurant, and I thought I was in hell. Anyway, so there's kosher food, and there's a band. I'll have to use that word even in Yiddish, so you'll excuse me. The purists among you, I'm one of you here. There's a band, they're playing, people are dancing. They're dancing. There's all these kind. Then he's taken upstairs to Gan Eden, to heaven. No one there. No one at home. A kick. He looks. Finally, way over the far corner, he sees 3 alte Yidden, 3 old Jews, sitting over the Gemara, and they're studying. And he says to God, God, I don't understand. Dort in Gehenna, I'm using this tune that we speak, dort in Gehenna, down there in hell. Me ess, they eat, me drink, me tanz, they dance, me huljet, they frolic. In says, I fill do a band, there's even a band. In Eden, in Gan Eden. In heaven, sitzen 3 alte Jiden in Gunish, 3 old Jews and nothing. And God says to him, for 3 alte Jiden soll ich nehmen a band? For 3 old Jews, I should hire a band? I thank you very much. It's lovely to see you. I thank all the people who laughed. Thank you very much. The check is in the mail. I want to thank you very much. And I think you have some announcements now.
Schönen Dank, Rabbi Schechter, Rebbe, Berl. Alle haben Erwartung gehabt, wir heute gesehen. Wir können ihm gut ein Patsch geben noch einmal.
Thank you.
Rabbi Schechter, יישר כוחך,
Ja,
אבל ich habe gemeint, dass alles wird sein Gerät in Yiddish.
Ich verstehe.
Set up line.
Ich wollte gewollt auch reden, das Ganze in Jiddisch. No.
Ja, es ist Ivo. Für was darf sein Gerät in Englisch, frage ich?
Jewo heißt Jiddische Wissenschaftliche Institut, aber auf Englisch auch. Also,
Ja, aber es ist gewähnt alles in Englisch. Ja, ich verstehe, aber ich habe gemeint, als ich will lernen Yiddish.
Ich verstehe, was ihr sagt. I'm going to give you a completely Yiddish sentence now.
No.
You darfst complainen zu the management.
Ah.
Das habt ihr verstanden?
Do you want to tell me
Das
when
ist der letzte Witz. Als wollt gewesen, als in Jiddisch, wollt gewesen 3 Menschen.
3 Menschen, 3 FCF. I finished communion. I told someone yesterday, I said that mums of Putin has 190,000 troops and I can't even get a minion. Anyway, listen.
Yiddish verrät nicht, verrät sich.
Ich will etwas sagen auf Jiddisch. Ich bin zu der Rabbi Schechter. Ich bin der Redakteur. Ich habe starke Nuhe gehabt. Mein Mann hat starke Nuhe gehabt. Wir sitzen beide in Lachen.
Ja.
Ich lege vor, dass wir sollen das Team noch einmal auf Jiddisch von vorwärts. Es wird sein im Ganzen auf Jiddisch.
Maske. Ja.
But from an old,
We'll be in touch.
Ja, mit sein in touch. Mit sein in touch.
We're in touch, yeah.
Mit seiner Verbindung.
Eine Verbindung.
Rabbi Schechter, a größten Dank.
Okay.
Ja.
Okay.
but
Thank
from an old Yeki, I want to thank you. I understand Yiddish if it's like German, but I want to thank you because it was fabulous. And
Well, thank
großen Dank.
Where are you from? But you're not from Germany. You're from South Africa, aren't you? Or are you? Where are you from?
I'm an American for 63 years.
So
I was born in South Africa.
I see. Where are you, but you said you're Yeka. Your family's from Germany.
Yes, they managed to come into South Africa.
Where in Germany are they from?
Well, it's between Köln and Aachen. That's part of Germany.
Have you Sie sprechen Deutsch auch? Ein
Yeah,
bisschen?
a bissel.
Ein kleines bisschen.
Kleines,
Okay,
yeah.
listen. Ich red Deutsch. Okay, I'm going to tell you another one. This is all of Yiddish. Okay. You can switch off if you want to. You can't do this in English.
Harold, come.
Samur getroffen, Jeff knows this. In Russland, in Pandemification Milchome, is given a machloike in Shield. I'll tell the first bit in English as well. There was a big argument in the synagogue. A young man, a younger man, a young man starts yelling at the rabbi. Starts yelling, schreien. It got so bad. Even the Polizei. They called the police and the young man weggenommen. They took the young man away. And the police, the police captain hat gesucht, gerade gesucht, als wird nicht freilassen, seitdem der Ruf wird kommen und suchen aus dem Meuchel.
a few minutes?
He won't release him unless the rabbi says he forgives him. No, so there was a problem. The rabbi hat nicht gekannt reden für Russisch. The rabbi could not speak Russian. Aber der Polizeiman hat gekannt Dutch. He spoke German. The police captain spoke German. And the rabbi said, "Lasst mich, ich kenn Dutch. I speak German." 2 people are going to laugh at this, Jeff and me, I think. No, maybe Rachel will as well. So he goes and he says, he meets the police captain at Leftem and he sucht him, and the police captain sucht. He says, "Was wollen Sie sagen?" Sucht Die Maße der Fin ist also. Lechatchila bin ich gewähnt mulig Haas. Stach, a Jingas, an Asas Mechitzef Punim, is ich mi Yashiv Shabbos Bishas Kirsa Teure, and is Mecharef Amur da Asel Mfnei Kol Am Ve'eda. No, but the Evid bin ich im Meuchel bin Mechile Gemire. The police captain says, "Das ist doch kein Deutsch." He said, geht mich auslernen Dutch. Anyway, that's the story. I want to tell you, I told that story to a very good friend of mine. And it's untranslatable. I told that story, a very good friend of mine, Rabbi David Lincoln, when I lived in Washington, in the Mayflower Hotel. The Mayflower Hotel, I can guarantee you, those are the first Yiddish, maybe the last Yiddish words that we've ever heard there. And he laughed so loud, I thought we were going to get thrown out of the place. But I'm sorry I didn't tell you. So I feel I owe the rest of you another one. But we'll have another one, and then I'll just do, we'll have a mechitza, we'll have a division, not men and women, but English and English. We'll have it. We'll be very modest, and we'll have it so that no one will miss anything. Anyway, listen. I thank you all for coming. I thank you for laughing. And seid mir gesund und stark. Be well. let me do it in my dialect. Zaats, mir gesinnt und stark. And alles gets all the best to you. Thank you.